welcome back. It's me, Damon Hart, Mr. Foxy, here with my good in-studio guest and buddy, Dr. Saurabh Gupta. So, look, Saurabh, we're going to just jump right in, right?
Let's do this.
Because we already talked about, maybe fashion wasn't the
right.
the start for you, okay? We got to that. Well, let's get it right into, real estate, right? We met because you were in a space we were just it was just by chance, I guess, but I guess, who knows? Maybe there's no chance in life, but we met, we started talking, we were at a real estate event, we got to talking, and, at that time, I think you were looking to get into like private mortgages. That was something that you were kind of hovering around.
Mortgage notes is what
mortgage
I was
notes.
exploring, yeah.
Okay, so that was something you were exploring at the time, and then, months later, you told me the path changed for you. So tell me, for anyone that's listening, tell me how the experience of real estate investing, like how did that start for you? Why did you feel like real estate was the thing that when you were kind of looking for new things to get started in and to build a future for you and your family? What was that? Why was real estate somewhere that you started to look?
I think just like a lot of people, probably a lot of listeners here, you hear all the time about people making terrific money in real estate and doing it largely passively.
Right.
And that sounded like my jam for sure. Right. And because what brought me to that event where I met you was, the recognition that, okay, business is doing well and better every year. So I'm starting to stack a few chips. I'm a big saver. Right. When you come from a background like
Indian.
mine.
Let's call it.
There's that too.
Yeah. Let's call it what it
there's
is.
that too for sure. But when you come from a background where there might have been some struggle in your life, often you learn to climb your way out of that through a lot of saving, right? Mm-hmm. Rainy days happen. So I'd stack some chips and I thought, okay, let me explore this thing and see what comes of it. And I was sort of blown away and overwhelmed by it. Person after person got their turn to stand up and address the group. And I just saw this incredible diversity of approaches to investing in real estate. It broadened my perspective a lot. I was like, okay, there's a whole universe of ways to get involved in real estate. One presentation, as you mentioned a moment ago, was on mortgage notes.
Right.
And the guy got up there kind of making breathless claims about how great it was to be, basically the bank and essentially buy up mortgage notes from other banks and then essentially just sit back and collect the money. And of course, he had a class to sell.
Of course.
Right? Yeah.
Of course.
So I took a few classes and thankfully a lot of it was self-study. So I moved through it pretty quickly and I pretty quickly came to learn, it's not so passive. I mean, I think one of the last things I learned about how it's not so passive was you needed to check each year on any mortgage note you held and to check whether the borrower was actually paying his taxes.
Wow.
I'm like, I am not babysitting somebody to pay their taxes. This doesn't sound...
I already have a job.
Yeah, I already got a job.
Yeah.
This is not as passive as I want it to be.
Yeah.
And it also seemed like it was a lot more risky than I wanted it to be.
Okay.
And I think that dovetails well with the broader thing for me about real estate and my hesitancy to jump in. And that's risk. So ultimately, my sort of fear of risk, really ended up resulting in me declining to do any of the different things that I saw because I felt like I had zero idea about how to assess risk in any of these things that these people were doing.
Right.
They're bridge loans and house flipping, etc. And I thought, okay, these are great, but I don't have any clue how to not make a stupid mistake.
A stupid call, sure.
Yeah, there's a term in psychology. It's called, I think it's from behavioral economics. It's risk aversion, right? And I think that's a pretty simple idea. Just the name of it kind of explains it all. But it's really human beings tend to be averse to taking risks. And what's at the heart of that is this desire to avoid a really painful, psychologically painful outcome and a painful sort of psychological state, and that is regret. Right. We really want to avoid feeling like we regret making a move. We feel foolish. We feel stupid. Sure. We feel like all of our mistakes just come straight. They're presented to us straight in the face. And you can't help but think, man, how could you be so dumb? Right. Why didn't you see this coming? That sort of thing. And so, I came away just saying, okay, I guess this isn't for me. And then I just handed my chips over to a wealth manager. Okay. And, let's see how they do. But in the short term, the returns are fine, and it's a long game, and eventually I'll do great just doing that. But I still kind of felt like, there's got to be something more. But your friendship with mine, it evolved, and I got to know a little bit better about what you were doing. And just about a year into us knowing each other, you floated an opportunity past me.
Sure.
And you remember the reluctance that I expressed. I was like, I love you, Damon, but I have no idea whether I'm making a colossal mistake.
Sure.
And I had no idea how to, and it's not because of anything about you, but it was about my own ignorance, which I was totally upfront about, and I'm okay with, right? I'm okay with registering my own ignorance about things,
right?
Because that's how we do better, right? You're like,
for sure.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe I'll ask people. Maybe I'll figure this out, or maybe I won't figure it out. And and so I was honest with myself and with everybody else. With you, like, I don't know how to assess risk in this. I could plunk down a bunch of cash to put at this investment opportunity you've presented me with, but how the hell am I going to know whether whether that was good money thrown after bad?
Well, let me say this. I think your line of questioning, because we've been at this a long time, right? And it's only within the last 5 years we started to take investments. I remember my first offer to a customer when we had a project that we were looking for financing. It was just on a small single family flip.
Mm-hmm.
It was the first deal. And I remember that same hesitation and concern that you had. Our first investors did too, because it's like, it's a new relationship. They knew I was in the business and what we did for them. It was a client that actually, we bought their home, and now they had this money free that they wanted to invest. So it wasn't anything that I wasn't used to or prepared for. But what I think I got from what it started to register for me more so with you is that even though, like you said, it wasn't about Damon so much. It wasn't about the investment necessarily. It's more about you and you're, like you said, not knowing. And it's that concern, you said risk aversion, not knowing. I think that's what tends to hold a lot of folks back.
For sure.
So, for me, what I'd like to do with you, because I think you almost be a little bit of a doctor, a little bit. So if you let me go through the exercise, right? I feel like with you, you're a great test case for everyone out there that might be listening to say, like, okay, I know there's a myriad of different investments that I could pick from. I know there's a lot of different ways I could skin the cat. But what was it that kind of made it easy for you to decide, okay, let me try this thing in real estate investing? What was it that turned the page with us that allowed you to say, okay, this is the right way for me to go?
Well, so number one, the returns you were offering were just outstanding. The kind of returns I don't see in any kind of other investment opportunity that's been floated my way. So that's where the motivation was.
Okay.
So now
so greed.
Okay.
Let's call it what it is, right?
Right.
All right.
A little bit. That's okay. And greed is healthy.
Yeah. Gordon Greco will be proud.
That's
for sure.
Yeah. But then I had to resolve, okay, here's the motivation. Maybe greed, maybe, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
But then I had to bridge that against my skepticism. And, as a psychologist and also somebody who's worked in science, skepticism is something that I actually consider to be a really valuable trait to have. It keeps you out of a lot of trouble. People make wild claims about a lot of things. You turn on the television and you're going to be exposed to lies. The vitamin industry, for example, right? So
100%.
I don't want to believe more than I don't want to believe.
Right.
And so, but I still do want to believe. So what motivated me was obviously the returns, and then so I had to think about, okay, how am I going to resolve this? I want to jump in, but I'm ignorant. So let me see if I can set about resolving my ignorance to the best of my ability. I don't have a checklist. I don't have any formal training on how to go about this. But what I can do is I can ask questions till I'm blue in the face, till I'm irritating Damon, which I think I did a little bit. You're welcome. And I asked to get as much kind of due diligence the way I knew how.
Right.
So I spoke to the attorney who is the trustee on our land trust.
Our investment, right?
Yeah. I spoke to one of your prior investors, and I listened carefully. And what I was looking for was, hey, am I being sold here, or am I being given the opportunity just to cold-bloodedly evaluate the facts of the situation against statutes, against history, against everything else I know about you.
Right. Everything else that you could assess on your own.
Right.
And I think that's powerful because, if I often put myself in the position that I was when I started out, right? I didn't know much. I went to a seminar. I got a little bit of education and they said, go to work. And I tell people that, it isn't any more simple than just getting a resolve to say, okay, I'm going to do this thing, but I'm going to do it in a way that I feel comfortable. And I know that there's going to be a risk because for you to do anything different, you're going to have to risk something.
That's right.
But just be okay prepared, not expecting things to not go right, but knowing that you can take the step and have it turn out the way that you want, evaluating what the possibilities would be. And I think you did a fantastic job of that and explaining that just now. For anybody that's listening, it's just one of those things where we all are going to go through that process, but it's how you get through it. And the most important part for you is you took action. And I think that to me is magic. So before we get too deep into that,
Yep.
I'd like to take just a quick break. For you guys that are watching here, just going to take a quick break here with Saurabh and come back in. And what we're going to jump into in the next segment is with Saurabh is just more about his experience, not only investing, with us, but also what his interests are and what the next steps would be for him in terms of projects that are coming up his way. So with that being said, we'll see you guys in the next one.